Oh, I'll go ahead. Okay. Can you sign off on it? Sure. That's what another guy said. Did it have glue? Somebody took it home. The manager of the place took it home because they thought they had multiples.
Yo, peace, y'all. Peace, family. Thank you for tuning in for another episode here. As promised, we talked about this last week. If you haven't already checked out the previous episode of the community, what are you doing about it? We had Brother Jeff on, Brother Jeff of the Phoenix LOC. We had some great conversation, great dialogue just about the things that we're doing in the community. And we are back for round two. So this is part two of today's session. As you can see, I'm here located in Phoenix at the beautiful foundation called Grassroots Bookstore. So I'm here. I'm here in the building. So I've got my brother Jeff here. I'm going to bring him in as well so we can dive into this conversation. This is going to be another great one. So I'm just looking forward to having the brother in. First off, peace, brother, man. Welcome back for another session, man. Look, last week we killed it. We talked about all things, man, around just the work that we're doing in the community, man. And I'm grateful to have you back for another session, man. So, kick us off by first off telling us what you do and where we can find you at again for those that didn't check out the previous episode, brother.
You can check out the Instagram of the Phoenix LOC at the PHXLOC. Find us on Instagram. Myself, you pretty much, if you ever want to get in touch with me, you can email me at jned 2022 at gmail.com. But anyway, back to what I do though. For the most part, um, professionally, I work as a security officer in multiple places. Also, I am a firearms instructor. Also, I am the chairman of the Ministry of Defense for the LOC.
So tell us what does that mean? So when you say chairman of defense, what does that mean?
Chairman of the Ministry of Defense is pretty much their role, not only within the LOC but within the community, is about the defense of the community as a whole. Physically, mentally, emotionally, we are pretty much the ones who reach out to the community. We're the ones who, well, not at the current second, but shortly will be the ones entering into community once we don't.
Oh, I don't know if it's me or did the brother cut out. Maybe me. Brother Jeff, you still out there? May just be me. Yeah, I believe the brother may have cut out.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Can
I
you hear
got you
me?
back. Yep. There you go. I got you perfect. Now say that again.
Okay, the Ministry of Defense role. Just try to sum it up real fast. The role of the Ministry of Defense is to basically go within to the community, um, and secure the community in all ways. You know what I'm saying? Like I was saying, mentally, physically, emotionally. We'll pretty much be the ones coming to the community, offering services anywhere from medical aid. You know what I'm saying? In case there's any type of emergency that comes up, we'll be able to try to jump in and handle that, all the way to conflict resolution. We want to be able to come into the community, offer there's groups of people who may have some type of conflict going on. We want to be able to come in as the mediator, and you know what I'm saying, instead of all this constant killing and all this, maybe bring brothers together, so we can chill out on all this violence and even more bring our community back together as a whole. And hopefully we bring those brothers in and start teaching them how to be more leaders within the community. You know what I'm saying? So we can actually take our true role as men within our community.
Well, and I think that's an important factor, what you just mentioned, which is the mediation piece, right? I think that oftentimes we get into conflicts and there's a back and forth that takes place. You know what I mean? Like, and
Right,
and
but you
we
cutting
never
in and
have
out
that
real bad.
opportunity. Oh, am I cutting out right now?
Yeah,
And
you're cutting in and out.
maybe my service. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
So, oftentimes we in our community we get into these conflicts and there's no one really there to step in to take the place of a mediator to mediate between these different parties that are involved in the conflicts. So why do you think that's such an important role, and just speak to us a little bit about why that's important or why it's needed?
As far as mediation is something in which I believe that's really needed within our community because, to be honest, we're angry people. You know what I'm saying? We're angry and we're prideful, and a lot of times
Rightfully so.
we
There's
have
certain things that
never
take place that we rightfully
right.
so.
You know what I'm saying? But because of that, we also haven't learned how to really communicate with each other, though. You know what I'm saying? We don't, because, okay, even like in our
Yeah.
household, you look at how, like, a lot of our houses communicate with each other. There's a lot of yelling, screaming, you know what I'm saying? There's never no real peaceful conflict resolution going on within our household.
Yeah.
So we're not growing up seeing anything of that nature. So we don't know how to communicate with that with even people outside of our own personal families. You know what I'm saying? To bring in any type of resolution. We only just know how to just snap off and go hard on each other. You know, now like I was sitting there saying last week though, it's not the fact that we don't know how to be peaceful or when to be peaceful, because like I was saying, how when the blueberry and cherry show up, they sure know how to get peaceful real fast. They yes sir, no sir, real quickly. Um, when we have, like I was saying, how some of our sisters from, you know what I'm saying, a nation be around. You know what I'm saying? We talking about true thugs, you know what I'm saying, hard on the street, cussing, you know what I'm saying, smoking, we going the whole nine. But as soon as them sisters show up, oh, we know how to straighten up, straighten, you know what I'm saying, walk tall. Oh, excuse me, sister. Hey, back up, yo, chill out, you know what I'm saying, put that down, you know, hey, you know what I'm saying, get real respectful. So my point
Man.
being, so we know how to do it. It's in us to do it, but for some reason we don't necessarily do it with each other. And, you know, so if we can actually be that, say, an olive branch between two individuals that doesn't know how to interact in a more peaceful nature with each other because of the fact we're more emotional at the moment. We're acting out of anger than we are being able to be logical. We want to be able to step in, be that olive branch, be that logical individual in between the conflict. Hey, this is what we can do. This is how we can. This is your side. This is your side. This is what the issue is. Now, how can we resolve this without all the extra? So, in which we can be shaking hands, you know what I'm saying, showing love to each other within the community now, and then after that, teach brothers how to actually do that on their own. So then
Yes.
each
Yeah.
time when these types of conflicts come up, they'll
Yep.
be able to, hey, breathe, calm down, you know what I'm saying, react in the fact of love instead of anger all the time, if all that makes sense, you know.
Man, that's spot on, man. I was just at we were talking about this just recently. I was at church, and we talked about the fact of when you're dealing with people, when you're using your freedoms, right? We've got certain freedoms and liberties that you use that to show up in under a principle of love, that you use those to help guide the conversation. And like you mentioned, man, just in stating those skills, those behaviors of being able to resolve a conflict out of the principle of love within our community is something is really needed. Speaking of which, man, that brings me to a couple of topics that I really want to talk about this week, man. Now, as you know, there's a lot that's transpired between the last time that you and I talked, which was just last week, and today, present. And one, as being the Minister of Defense, right? I want just to get your ideas and your opinions on what do you think is going on right now with the youth that's causing us to see a lot of what we're seeing across the nation with mass shootings.
What do I believe? What's the cause of it?
Yeah,
Oh, brother, that's a tall order you
I
asking.
know it. I know it.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's no simple answer to that question. Because I believe it's a multitude of things. You know, and that's the thing. It's like without necessarily trying to make it sound too conspiracy theorist, you know, there's a lot of things that's going on within our nation that,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people love to sit there and say, like, why is it the rest of the world necessarily having the problems that we're having in the United States?
Okay. Good point.
You know, and one of the things I like to try to point out is there's a lot that goes on with our food. You know what I'm saying? That don't go on
Mm,
in other nations.
mm.
You know, there's a lot of things that literally is illegal to put in food or even
In
use
other nations.
in other nations that's legal here and they use it with abundance.
Facts. Facts.
So when we're talking about a chemically induced nation,
Okay.
you know, that's literally pumped full of different chemicals, that's gonna that's gonna mess with your mind. And then we turn around, have psychotropics and things that we feed people, saying, like, "Oh, you have this going on.
Yep.
We got
Yep.
this pill. You got that going on. We got that pill." You know what I'm saying? They always got a pill for any issue, but nobody's actually asking why is all these issues happening now. And a large part is coming from, I believe, our food source. And then we can even talk about all the chemicals that's even in our water sources.
Yeah, we just found out there was what they call forever chemicals that are
Oh
flowing
my
through the
gosh,
water.
you brought
So
it up before I could. Exactly. Exactly. Them forever chemicals. The reason they call them forever chemicals because they don't die, they don't dissipate. Most things throughout time will dissipate, you know what I'm saying, kind of get brought it back into the earth, you know what I'm saying? This never goes away, ever. It's there forever. You know what I'm saying? And we're putting this constantly into our body, you know.
yep.
So when you ask what's going on with the youth, it's like, come on now, we're talking about think I know, let me push it this way too. This hasn't always gone on. That's why I feel like with our
No, has not.
generation,
Has not.
this we're not we're wondering like why is this all going on? Because we never had this problem. What is really going on in the hood? You know what I'm saying? It's because a lot of these chemicals were added kind of within our youth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now it's to
Cereal,
where
food,
it's in
candies
us.
containing dyes.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's been added more and more. So by the time now it's our kids and you know what I'm saying, all these kids growing up, it's within their blood system because of the fact it was already in ours and then it got passed on to them through the DNA. And then you throw on even more chemicals on them from the time they're babies all the way up to now. And then we throw in the whole thing of like, if you really look at television, yeah, it pretty
Come
much
on.
everything
Come
is
on.
based on violence. You know what I'm saying? We are a violent driven nation. We love action. We love to see the shoot 'em up, bang, bang. Then we got the video games. And I promise you, I'm not one to sit there and say the video games alone is what's causing the problems. No, again, I'm sitting there saying it's a
It's a tool.
combination
Yeah.
of everything. You know what I'm saying? And these are just a few things I'm grabbing from. That's what I'm saying. Like that's a tall order to ask for. What's the cause? It's
Well,
like, bro, it's literally so much that's going on that's literally adding into this. Cause okay, I can't remember this woman's name, but she had did a study where she was a scientist and basically something was going on with her son where he was just always really depressed, yada yada yada. And he got to a point where he said he wanted to, you know what I'm saying, do himself
harm
in.
himself. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So she sat there and said, like, she's like, something's got to be going on. So the first thing she go to is food. I can't remember the whole process. Either way it go, she got into the whole thing of food dyes. Through her studies with her own son, with her own family, she realized, yo, these different food dyes are having different emotional effects. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't
The
necessarily affect
reds,
everybody
yellow.
in that same way. But I'm sitting there saying she noticed that the fact that these food dyes on certain people are having emotional effects. So I'm sorry, but when I kind of see something like that being brought up, and then you know what I'm saying again with the combination of everything else, yeah, that's kind of why everybody might be wilding out. You know what I'm saying? That
So
they're constantly under chemical attack in this country.
so the chemical imbalances, the and for me, I think back to just some of the recent things that we've uncovered, even with baby food, even the baby formula, the metallic content, the parts
Yeah,
per
you should never
billion
feed
that's
that to kids
allowed
no
in
way.
that. It's not even
Yeah.
allowed in other things. But like you mentioned, in other nations, they have certain restrictions against this stuff. Like for example, man, I went to in 2020, I went over to Canada, and I was in Canada. I spent some good time there. But one of my coworkers and I, we compared two bottles of Heinz ketchup. Now, most people know Heinz ketchup, right?
Mhm.
And we compared the bottle that was manufactured in Canada versus one that was manufactured in the US. And do you know there were about an additional 12 chemicals in the bottle that was from the US versus the bottle that was in Canada? Now, keep in mind, where's the brand come from? The brand came from the United States. But you mean to tell me that in the United States you have all of these different chemicals that are in the same bottle? Two bottles look identical, same logo, everything. But when you look at the ingredients on the back, you see that the Canadian only contains about two or three products versus the bottle that we have is like 13, 14.
Isn't that insane? Why does the same company have to produce two different kinds?
Precisely. So that's an example of what you're talking about when you speak to the chemical state. So when those chemicals, those foreign chemicals are introduced into the body, now we see a lot of what we see here in the US as well when it comes to our health, the decline of our health over time.
Yeah.
You see that as those chemicals continue to get introduced and reintroduced by new products that they're continuing to put out, right? The dyes that they're putting in almost everything, right? Cereal, for example, right? That used to be something that we look forward to as kids. But now there's all these dyes and chemicals and sugars and everything else that's added in. Yeah, that puts a mental block here. You're not able to fully process and think the way that you should because you got this cloud of chemicals that are constantly clouding you. So I agree. I think that is definitely a huge factor to a lot of what we see as well. Now, there's a subject that you didn't really touch on just yet, but you talked about it earlier as one of the missions, the mental components. Talk to us about some of the mental components that you think are playing themselves out that are causing a lot of these things too.
Um, I'm sorry. Say that one more time. What was?
Yeah, the mental components, right? So you talked about the chemical makeup, right? That's the
Right.
physical products that we're putting into our body and how our body is
Oh,
housing and hosting certain things and not processing those chemicals, right? And now all of a sudden that's a cloud on our judgment or a cloud on our mind as well. But talk to us about some of the mental things or some of the things that are maybe outside influences that are also causing some of the things that we see with the recent, especially the youth being involved recently in the
nah.
mass.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now. Like now, even on that subject, that's when we actually look even then like, okay, the media. You know, if we just go on the subject of say these mass shootings real quick, can we not sit there and say we glorify these shootings to a degree? The media, the
They
mass
do.
media, literally glorify these shootings. These
Absolutely.
people we talked about from the time of the shooting all the way through their time to get arrested to the trial, if they even make it to that point, because a lot of them either kill them off themselves, or you know what I'm saying, is done by the police. But the ones who get caught, you know what I'm saying, they will literally talk about these people forever. So when you basically have a situation where we got someone kind of young seeing this, especially someone who's kind of in the same boat as these people.
Yeah.
Again, getting bullied at home, getting bullied at school. They they really kind of feel defenseless in a sense, because usually people who reacting as such, they usually are feeling defenseless. Then saying, they see this constant glorification of an individual after they do something of this. It's kind of putting this, as you say, planting the seed in their heart to, like,
Yeah.
what, maybe I might want to do this one day. And yeah, granted, this person can grow all the way up, get through school, become an adult. Because again, we have to look at one aspect we haven't really, nobody really thinks about or talks about. A lot of these mass shootings, they're not done by kids. When it comes to the schools, a lot of them are done by straight up adults.
Yep.
You know,
Uvalde.
what
Yep.
the heck made you go into a school as an adult? Like, so we can't say it's because you were being picked on or you want to get rent. No.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's something deeper, And again, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, going after a soft target for one. You know what I'm saying? Because they only go in the areas where they know that people are going to be most likely defenseless. You know what I'm saying? Very, very weak defenses. And then, two, I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought for a second.
Now
Sorry.
you were speaking about them going into the defenseless environments, right? So you were
Right.
speaking about how they choose those settings.
Right. It was another part that I was just about to head into, and it's like I just lost that track real fast. But either way it goes.
So what
When
do
we're
you think?
talking about the whole mental aspect and the whole rundown of it, you know what I'm saying? When we're talking about people who are abused, when we're talking about people who are bullied throughout school, even as adults, you know what I'm saying? Or they can grow up all the way to become adults, become legal gun
Come on,
owners.
come on.
You know what I'm saying? Because it don't matter what the laws are. We got to understand that there's nothing more they can put on the books to make guns any more safer. It's the individuals
Come on,
we like
come
to
on.
address it. It's not the guns. It's the individuals. You know what I'm saying? It's the people. When we have a combination of all of this, you know what I'm saying, being balled up and put into it, and the
Yeah.
glorification and all this, yeah, we're kind of driving the force towards people wanting to do this. Honestly, to a degree, for a while there, I was actually kind of thinking, like, I almost feel like this is all being a setup. Like, all these
Ooh,
all this, I feel like it's more of being a setup on to constantly push the whole narrative of the whole gun control, want to confiscate
come
guns,
on, man. Come on.
just have guns. And I've always been worried about that type of conversation. Anytime I hear that type of rhetoric, I start getting nervous. Main reason being because I've always kind of lived by this saying that I heard years ago when I was young. Says something to the nature of, only slaves aren't allowed to have weapons.
Come on.
It don't matter what time period it is, whatever time, what's going on. Whenever you were enslaved, you weren't allowed to have any type of weapons, because weapons is the ultimate way you can defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? So more or less, when we're talking about trying to confiscate guns from the people that's law abiding, that's good and everything, you're trying to enslave the people more. So that's why I've always kind of felt like there's something more to these shootings and all that, you know. And that's every time there's a mass shooting, that's the first thing that starts coming out of everybody's mouth. We need to
Control.
confiscate all.
Control.
Everybody
Right.
need to get guns. We need a more stricter gun control. There's
Right.
no such thing as stricter gun control than what we can already have.
Well, and definitely with the
So
agreement that's with the people here, right? Every government has what's called
are
a
you cutting out
constitution.
again, bro?
Oh, am I? Ah, yeah.
Sorry, you cutting out.
Hold on. We do this. I'm gonna switch my connection real quick. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think you just froze.
Yeah, I think that's me. There we go. Am I back now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So one of the things that I think about this whole situation is this. Scarface said it best. Scarface said it in the song. He said, "It's the people you need to get control of," and like you talked about, that's the real key. So that being said, what do you think are some of the things that we can do that will help us to get in front of? I won't say that you're always going to have people who for whatever reason have their thoughts, their hatreds, their lineages, or whatever that happens to be, right? We know that the Constitution, which is the agreement with the people, has that it is the right of the people to bear arms. What do you think are some things, though, that specifically in our community that we can do that will help us with being able to make sure that people are using the tools wisely and not use them as we've seen some of the foolish acts that have taken place recently?
Number one being is take a firearms course. It's kind of almost one of the easiest things we can do. Especially here in Arizona, is really not that expensive, especially when you get one
Yeah,
that's focused on like not only the concept of how to use the gun, the mechanics of the gun, the whole breakdown and everything, the fundamentals of shooting, and then also my biggest part, like the one I really try to focus on, is the understanding of the laws. You know what I'm saying?
man.
Understanding of gun laws, understand how to interacting with police. Those to me almost feel like the most important understanding. You know, because
So
when it comes down,
educate.
anybody can sit there and pretty much pick up a gun and just shoot it. It's not really that hard to use one. But understanding those fundamentals, you know what I'm saying, to the whole thing of gun safety, and then the whole thing of interacting with police, and even more the whole thing of the do's and don'ts while being a responsible gun owner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just getting this types of training is really the best thing you can do. There's really nothing more, nothing less you can do. You
So the
know, I'm
training
a
aspect.
in fact, that's what inspired me to become a gun instructor or firearm instructor, is because I really believe that our people, one, needs to arm themselves. You know, we have the constitutional right to bear arms and protect ourselves by any means necessary. So it's best for us to always have the tools available to actually make it a fair fight. That's one. And then two, again, these are just something that we should just participate in to make sure that we can always protect ourselves and our freedoms, because we already know that we're already in the line of fire. We're already at war. And I'm sorry, throughout the ages, and I'm speaking for our people in particular, we have shown through the
Yeah, yeah.
generations that peace doesn't always work. Yes, we should always move in the name of peace, but I'm sorry, but hey, if you want war though, I'm prepared for war too. You know what I'm saying?
Preparation.
Because peace has not been working. We have tried that. You know, we have tried the marching and the sit-ins while they were beating us across the heads and everything. Look at where we still. It's 2023. Why are we still having the same conversations?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just really big on the whole thing of being able to protect ourselves by any means necessary, you know, by all resources. But be educated, be truly trained. And
Yeah.
even then, after just getting that initial training, you have to constantly continue to
Continue.
train yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and educate yourself. There's plenty of videos on YouTube where there's constant gun conversation. You know, what I'm saying reenactments, things in which that can make you more mentally ready. You know, what I'm saying mentally not be more knowledgeable about the situation, about your gun usage. But then also you have to go to the range and practice using your weapons. You know what I'm saying? It has to be a constant. You have to
Training.
make that thing a party, like another part of your body. You have to get so used to it. And the only way you can do it is by constant practice.
That's it, man.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, that's it. So, and I think you mentioned some really good factors here, right? The education piece, right? So, being able to educate yourself, that's the first step. Educating yourself by, taking courses, take the courses. And speaking of that, the brother's email address is scrolling across the bottom. If you need to get in contact with the brother, he definitely is open and willing and available to help train our people. As he already gave you, he gave you his firm stance on the fact that he knows that if you stay ready, guess what you don't have to do? You don't have to get ready.
That part.
So yes, please get in contact with the brother. The brother's email address is scrolling across the bottom of the screen as you can see it there. And just let him know that you're interested in learning more, the education piece. And then the second part that you mentioned learning the laws. What people don't know, there's what a lot of people don't know. They think that just because either you have your firearm or you own it. Specifically here in Arizona, we are an open carry state, and our laws are way different from some of the states that neighbor us. You go over to California, for example, lot totally different. As a matter of fact, you're not even supposed to cross that line. What people don't know, with having that thing, even if you are licensed, because they have a specific set of rules and regulations on the book
Right.
in Cali. Now, what people don't know is this: when you are traveling, aka you're not driving, when you're traveling, you have the ability to travel from point A to point B unimpeded. So I'm just throwing it out there. You do the research yourself on that. Again, that's what the brother said. He said, do your research, study to prove yourself worthy. And
That's
that's
it.
that's one of the things that we need to do to start. And I agree with you. I think that when we think and analyze what takes place, a lot of people they get access to a gun, and guess what they do? They go out, bam, 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 and like you said, that's easy. It's easy to do that. But what you understand when you educate yourself is you understand that you are responsible for every single piece of lead that comes out of the end of that barrel.
Everyone. Everyone.
And
You
so
know,
I think you bring up a real big factor. So, but again, I want to go back to one thing. There's one thing that I want to go back to. What role do you think our people in the community play in a lot of the things that we're seeing with these particular situations? Like, for example, the situation that just happened in Texas, right? There were 8 other victims were from the ages, I think, 13 to 17, if I'm not mistaken. Ages 13 to 17. Um,
you know what?
House
Honestly,
party.
I did hear about it, but I didn't actually hear the report. I just seen something about it, but I hadn't actually had checked out what happened in Texas, so I don't know the scope of what happened.
So here's and again, this is I'm just giving you a brief kind of brief synopsis of it, but it was a house party, similar to the one that we seen, I think, what, about a week and a half ago, where there were a
Mhm.
bunch of individuals. They got into an argument or altercation. Again, it goes back to what you mentioned earlier, conflict, right?
Conflict
So they got
resolution.
into a conflict, and then yeah, lo and behold, this was just on July 7th, right? This is what was reported by the news. They reported that there were 27 mass shootings just in the month of July alone, and a lot of the victims were of the youth category. Which to me, that started to speak to me and say, man, what's really going on with our youth that's causing it? And I know you talked about the chemical aspect earlier, right? We know that they're being targeted with Candide and all these other chemicals. Even you think look at um, some of the recreational use of
I was
things,
gonna say, look at the
drugs,
drug
right?
use. Yep.
So
Like, come on, like the things that is being promoted within the music blows my mind on a
come
regular
on,
basis.
okay,
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna just keep it 100. When we was growing up, the only drug that was being promoted, and we look at it was a drug, was a little bit of marijuana, a little bit of reefer. You know, now these cats is out here promoting things where I'm like, bro, what are you talking about?
come on,
Molly Percocet? We over here just
the
throwing
song,
back lean, promethazine and things. Bro, what is wrong with y'all? You know what I'm saying? Now we got a fentanyl problem and all this. And like I'm sorry, is I'm laughing, but it's not funny. You know what I'm saying?
no,
Because of the fact of it's just more mind blowing.
Yeah,
on
that
how
people
did
would.
we get here? When
Yep.
did it become? When did we want to become such? Especially with our people, when did it become cool to be promoting things of this nature? You know what I'm saying? I know why. You know what I'm saying? We on in the underline, we know why it's like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Who the one who really was the one promoting this thing
Yeah.
in the shadows.
We know who
But
runs the
in
industry.
the end, in the end, it's like, come on, man. You really sitting there gonna sell your people out like that? You know what I'm saying? I promise you, it's almost like as soon as I first heard that, it's been some years now.
Yeah.
But the one song talking about, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Molly, you know what I'm saying? What Papa Molly, Percocets or something like that. You know, I don't listen to the music.
Yeah. I know
Um,
exactly who you're talking
but
about.
it's like
I know
I
the song.
swear, I literally felt like I seen a change in the youth as soon as that type of music, as soon as I heard that mess start coming out. All of a sudden, these kids just became like really drug
Yeah.
induced
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
I mean, hard. And I'm talking about little kids, 14,
Yep. Yep.
15, 16, you know what I'm saying? Young.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Over here slumped over, you know what I'm saying? Got phone cups. I'm like, where are y'all even getting this stuff?
Man,
Where y'all getting
I
the
was
money for this? Like,
I
what
was
is
out.
going on?
I was in the Dominican Republic, man. I had quite some crazy experiences. So in 2017,
Mm,
April, it was April 7th through April like 11th. I think I spent out in the Dominican Republic, and I was in Santo Domingo. So we adventured up to Santo Domingo, man. And there was this young kid that was outside of a club, man, and he was high out of his mind. And I was like, man, how old are you? And he was like 12. I was like, wow. And I was like, man, so what made you, why are you in this state that you're in? Ah, man, I'm just, it was crazy just to see that. And even things like you mentioned, right, when we were young, right, we had, like my dad used to smoke weed. So my dad used to smoke around me, but at the same time, even the weed was different from what it is today.
hmm
You know what I mean? Like,
This ain't the same
you
mess.
can't you can't you it's hard to find anything that has seeds in it these days when it comes to marijuana, which should tell you all you need to know right there.
hmm
You know what I mean? And some of the chemicals that they're putting in it. So it's mind blowing to me to see how our youth have been indoctrinated with the lyrics that you mentioned earlier, right? Molly Percocet,
That's it.
and they put it over a nice beat, and everybody's bobbing your head to it. It's hard not to bob your head to it, not to
Right.
jam to it. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that's the word and the message. That's the propaganda. You mentioned the media earlier. The media, they continue to
That's it.
perpetuate a certain narrative. A certain narrative is what they're pumping and pushing out there. And I think it becomes incumbent upon us as conscious people, to start the process of recognizing that that's exactly what the agenda happens to be. And when we recognize that agenda, now we've got to start the process of rejecting to that stuff. But that's hard. It's a
Yes,
hard
sir.
battle. It's a very hard battle.
Right. That's a battle like of individuals. Honestly, that's something that we can't control. You know what I'm saying? Each and every individual have to be conscious enough to reject it themselves, because you can't stop a person from seeing what they see. You can't stop a person from hearing from what they hear. Yeah. But if they consciously like, yo, nah, I'm good. I don't
Yeah,
want to hear that, and refuse that, reject it, turn away from it, then yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But like I say, it's our youth that is going for. It ain't the adults it's trying to attract. It's them babies that's
absolutely.
attracted to it. And the sad part is, a large time it's the either older kids or more of the adults who are playing this music with the babies in the back seat, banging it
Exactly.
hard. So we're talking about these kids are being influenced from the time they're infants to the time they're grown with this
Yeah,
type of narrative always
yeah.
playing in their ear. Every time we get in the car, or every time mama and daddy listen to music in the house, every time if they watch, I don't even know, they still
They're
make
being
music here, you know what
exposed
I'm
to it.
saying? You know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? They right there. You know, so it's an indoctrination from the time these kids are here to the time they there. You know, and
So what would be a piece of
uh,
advice that you would give to someone that was listening to this around just that topic, man? Just that topic of indoctrination.
What kind of advice would I give them in the sense of what do you mean?
Uh,
Like,
of, of any, so we just talked about the fact that we know that it's indoctrination. It's the music that we're playing,
right.
at an early age, right? Children at a very, very young age are listening to these things, and now all of a sudden that becomes a part of them. So what advice would you give to someone that's listening to this episode around things that we can do?
Honestly, you know what? Uh, if I think I'm getting what you're asking me, right? Pretty much. Okay, we're talking about people who are already involved in listening to this type of music.
Yep.
Honestly, I would pretty much have to go to them, and actually, it's not even the fact of what I would try to tell them. It's more of like try to show them the cause and the effect of it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even though you may not think it's all that harm, like, oh, it's just
That's just
music. Like,
music,
no, we were
right?
just music. You know what I'm saying? In fact, let me even go this direction. In the word, it sits there and says the power of life and death is held within
In
the
the
tongue.
tongue. Come on.
So when we know that the fact that the words that come in our mouth has enough power to kill or
Has weight.
you know what I'm saying, either create or destroy.
Come on.
Now we sit there and look at these lyrics that were being pumped out. Now we talking about lyrics where in which all they talking about was shooting people up. Look at what happened.
Bang bang. Yeah.
We had lyrics where, you know what I'm saying, it basically was degrading the women. Look at what
Yeah.
happened.
Well, remember what Too
You
Short
sit there
said.
and look at, say it again.
Remember what Too Short said about when he was trying to get into the industry. Remember, he had
Mm-hmm.
went to them with conscious music originally, but that wasn't what was selling. And so the
You cutting out
executive,
again. You
am I?
cutting out again, bro.
What about now?
You good now.
Okay. So he went to the industry, and the executives had told him basically that the conscious music that he was trying to put out, it wasn't enough to sell. They couldn't sell that. And so when he came back with something raunchy, that's when they gravitated towards him. So even in that
Yep.
example, it shows you what their goal and their mission was in the first place.
That's it. And you know what? That statement pretty much says it all right there. You know, that nah, we don't want to give nothing conscious. We don't want something that's actually gonna feed the soul, feed the mind. Nah, we don't need that. We need something destructive. Something that's gonna destroy, that's degrading, something that's going to bring your people down to even lower vibrational levels.
Come on.
We can only promote that. That it's not the fact that that's all you can sell. That's all you want to sell.
Want to sell, right? Because it produces
If
a
that was the
result.
case,
It
all right,
produces a certain
answer
result.
this. If that was the case, why is it the fact that, like, okay, I'm gonna even hit you with this. We have an entire show called American Idol. Been on for quite some time now, right? At least what 20
Right.
years now, it seems like. Can I ask you
Yep.
this? Name one negative song, one negative image you have ever seen come off of that show. But
Wow.
yet you mean tell me you made famous people off of that for the last 20 years?
That's
They didn't
true.
have to be negative. But
That's
yet you
true.
mean tell me the only thing you can give us, give our people, that's the only thing that our people can promote is all negative stuff.
Right.
Make it make sense for me real quick.
Well,
It's
it's
not
just
about
like
what you
this.
want to sell, is or that what you can sell is what you want to sell.
Exactly. Well, it's like this too. So a lot of people don't know this about the algorithms. For example, like you mentioned earlier, the youth are heavily involved in this thing called social media, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of people don't know is that even the algorithms that are here in the US are designed differently, even by those that design the applications. For example, take TikTok, right? TikTok is manufactured and designed by Chinese, right? By the
Yeah.
Chinese. Now
Yes.
in China, their algorithms promote things that uplift their society. So they promote the
Yes.
good things.
Yes.
But why is it that here in the U.S. we promote, the drug use, the fighting, the catch me outsides, all these different the people that are bringing our
That
society down a
that
level. So
part.
even that, but people don't know that these things that they're just users of these tools, and they don't even know how they're using them or why they're using them because it's so catchy or because it gives them
Exactly.
instant gratification. So it gives them that attention that they need or that they're missing. Which for me, I think there's a huge
Yep.
factor in our community around this, which is um, our parents have got to be more involved in what's going on with the children. I firmly believe that
Come on.
because we're sending them
Mm.
out there to these institutions, we're sending them out there into these different places in the world, and we're not properly equipping them for how to operate when these things come at them, and so they're becoming attractive and they're getting soaked in to these things, and then all of a sudden on the back end we're like, oh, why is our children acting this way? I think there requires a lot more involvement for us as
In fact,
men and women in the community.
I'm sorry. I gotta interject on that real quick, and I'm sorry. I gotta come more this direction. I need our parents to start being parents. Let's just start being parents first. Do that to perfection. And that would mean automatically you're involved in what's going on in your child's life. You are overseeing everything that your child is being exposed to if you're being real parents.
You pay
I
for the
know I
cell
might
phone,
be
you should be
irritating a
checking it.
lot of people like that. I might be irritating a lot of people with that statement, but I don't really care. Because what I mean by it is the fact that there is too many people who call themselves parent, but yet all you do is do these two things. When you actually have your child, they're in front of that TV more than
Come
they
on.
actually sitting there
Are you
conversating
giving
with
them a
you.
tablet?
You know what I'm saying? Or giving them a tablet, or hey, even worse, you giving them your whole phone now. Here, take my phone, watch a video, do something.
Now the
That's why
phone
these
is
babies
gone.
they can barely can't even spell, but they know how to operate an entire smart device better than their own parents. You know what I'm saying? Unlock my phone for me here because I forgot how. You know what I'm saying? Type stuff. Be more parents. And then on the second side, that's when they actually have, and then even worse, we already know that the fact that parents don't even have their children most of the year anyway because they're at school. Your child spends about what
Be
8 9
involved.
hours of the day in somebody else's care,
Exactly.
being to, being directed and basically being raised by
Find
somebody
out what they're
else.
learning.
You know what I'm saying? And you don't even know what's going on. All you know is when you get a phone call, your child is acting up, you want to go off on the administration like they did something wrong. Again, it's because parents aren't being involved with these kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, very few of us in the last of the dying breed remember the fact that, like, yo, we got terrified if we had our administration was talking about they was gonna call our parents because we
Man,
knew it was gonna be something for us when
even
we got home.
problems. Right.
It was gonna be real. So we wasn't going off. We wasn't sitting there snapping off on the teacher. You know what I'm saying? Jumping hard. And even worse, or even more, our parents wasn't siding with us when we were acting up, and the teacher told them about it. Oh, it's only cracking. Now these
Absolutely.
so-called parents are siding with the kids. So now, oh, my child said they didn't do this. Oh, my child this, my child that.
Exactly.
Hold up, I wouldn't be calling you if I didn't know what was going on. You wasn't even here. I'm telling you what happened. You know what I'm saying? And but there's no raising of the children anymore. We need to really truly raise these children. You know what I'm saying? Quit just letting them be. Yo,
Yeah. It's the same
stop
thing in our
that.
community, man.
Because
It's
that's
the same thing
another
in the
thing that
community.
applies to everything else we've been talking about.
Yep.
Everything else we've been talking about. Because it all starts from the time that baby comes out all the
Come on,
way till
man.
they time they're an adult.
Come on, man.
Where
Like you
it's
can't even say
all of
anything.
this, the chemicals, the raising, the abuse, and everything. We're raising this. Exact. We're raising. I'm sorry, but we're raising little psychopaths because we're not directing
Yeah.
them in any way that they should be going, and then we're just
We're giving them
basically
no guidance.
chemically inducing them, and then we're sitting there
Yep.
abusing the hell out of them. Like, what do you expect for
Yep.
this? What do you expect
Yep.
for it to happen? Look at the
Yep.
end result of what we've been getting.
Well, and here's the other thing. you can't say anything to another person's child, even in your community anymore. Remember how when
Man,
we had true community,
come on.
everyone in the community had a say so on what took place, if that makes sense. If you were
Exactly.
doing something or acting up on the street over, guess what? Your neighbor already was going to correct you before you got back home, and you probably got in trouble when you got back to the house as well. But you
Because they
can't
was
say
on the
anything to
phone
these children.
before you even already putting the report on you. And they catch
Exactly.
you, like, get over here. They're going to check you real quick. Might even have to pop you upside your head a little bit and then
Yep.
get you home. So that way
Go
you
straight
really going to
home.
get,
Don't deviate. Go straight home. Yeah,
no, they
exactly.
already looking for you. Mom
Yep.
and daddy already sitting there waiting for you, like, come here. Why did Mr. them had to call me? Why was Mr. and them up there having to say something to you? Oh, you
Yep.
act like you ain't got no home training. You don't know you know what I'm saying? We don't get none of that anymore. You know what I'm saying? We let the children run wild and we don't want no one to correct them. But then we cry so hard when the things
Yeah.
that happen to them with the police.
Yep.
Now we're so
Yep.
cry, we want to be in tears. Now we want to go march. Now we want to protest. But I'm sorry, but when I first sit there and say is we wouldn't have been in that situation from the
Situation.
gate if
Right.
we would have been raising them right from the gate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sitting there saying every situation is a
Yeah.
result of this. I'm just in there saying we have to already have some type of this discernment within us
Yes.
of
Yes.
how to deal with situations within this world. And you only
Yes.
get that through being truly raised by not only your family but your community.
Yep.
Interacting within your community and knowing, hey, when they're out in the world as a child, the community is going to correct them because we want them to be a good citizen when it becomes an adult. We're not doing any of that no more. You know, I'm sorry, I keep going on these little rants.
No, man. Look, that was great because you're spot on there. So that's one of the first things is that we, as the men and women of the community, we have to start being more of a guide for our children. We're allowing everything in this world to guide them, and we're seeing the results. That's not the result that we want. And if that's not the case, not the result that we want, we've got to step up as men and women and take on the role that we used to have, take on the responsibility of truly guiding these children as opposed to just turn them over to propaganda, to social media, turn them over to the school systems. Instead of turning them over to these things, instill values, principles, and morals in our children before we allow them to go out into these things to be devoured by the world, because that's what's happening, devour them.
You know, one thing is I just had a quick thought on, like, the funny part is we trust our you know what I'm saying? We trust our enemy with our children more than you trust our own brothers
Come
and
on.
sisters.
Come on.
We know for a fact of what their agenda is. We know for a fact of who they are, what they want, what they're trying to do, how they feel about us, and everything else in between that you can bring up. But yet we still send our babies to them with no problem.
Faithfully. Faithfully, because we
If
don't have to
they
deal
have
with it.
anything to say about our babies, like I say, we know how to straighten right on up.
Yep.
But we don't have that same kind of love and respect and energy for our own people. We don't really believe that an elder is going to really direct a child better than our open enemy. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Quit treating our elders as if they trying to harm your kids or that they trying to harm you. I'm sorry, but every elder I ever met has only tried to sit there and guide me in a better way than what I was doing. Hey, young blood, don't do this. Hey, young blood, hey, go this
Exactly.
direction. Because they've been there, done that. Like, nah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go that way. Been there, done that. I'm trying to keep you from having to go the hard way.
You know?
You know what I'm saying? Quit treating our elders like they're nothing. And if anything, seek their guidance, yo. They are literally our open history books, our living history books.
Yep.
I'm saying full of wisdom, knowledge, and guidance. But we need to go seek that out. Bring back, because they're our elders. They're the heart of our community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We start bringing them back, come back centered around them. You know what I'm saying? Then we could possibly start centered around ourselves. Our elders can even teach us how to conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
saying, come on, man. Our
Well,
elders teach us the ways in which we should go. So, like, yo, we just need to start figuring out how to do this better than what we've been doing.
well, you
Stand up,
know,
true leaders.
I think that's one thing that I've realized as I've gotten older is the importance of those connections with those that are older than me. Right now, I have conversations with one of my eldest aunt. I always have conversations with her because she always gives me good wisdom, good advice, and then she's always based in the scripture as well. So when there's something that I'm facing as far as a challenge or something that's going on outside of me that I don't necessarily have any real control over, always seek that guidance and wisdom from her. Well, how did you deal with certain things when you were growing up, Auntie? And she always gives me that wisdom. And then the same thing, my oldest son, his great grandmother, I always call them. I call them, and I'll talk with her, and she always gives me good wisdom. But we have got to get to that point where we really respect the opinions, the thoughts, and the experiences of our elders because it'll help
Hmm.
us navigate these difficult times that we find ourselves in. For sure,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
sure. Well, brother Jeff, man, I look at what time we've arrived at at the top of an
Stop it,
hour
dude.
already, man.
Hey, you know what, man? Come on, man. We're gonna have to stop doing this. This little hour thing, as you see, that don't work for me, dude. I swear, it's only been 20 minutes.
Right,
20,
right.
maybe 25. You know what I'm saying? We just started, bro. We just started. I just said what's up. I just had an introduction with you. What do you mean? I know it ain't time to be done already.
Yeah, man. So we've had some really good conversations. So man, I want to turn it over to you, man, for final words from today's session, man. I know we've talked about quite a bit, but I really want to hear your thoughts on final words, and then please let the people know again where they can find you at as well.
You know what? Final words, huh? You know what? Let me read something for you real quick, if you don't mind.
Man, you better bring it through. Come on, come on.
Yeah, since you go ahead and give me that final word, I'm gonna give you this. You know what I'm saying? It was something that really stuck with me yesterday out of my brother Tramik's book,
Come on,
Push
y'all.
On Through Struggle.
If you haven't
You know what I'm
already
saying?
checked
Go
it out,
check it
push
out.
on through the
You
struggle.
definitely gotta go
Push
grab
on through the
this.
struggle.
Man,
Brother
I'm
Tramikis.
trying to tell you straight gems in here, bro. Let me see where I think it was this part right here. All right. We will never be able to escape the consequences of our own actions. So we need to be very patient and thoughtful about the decisions we make. We should study the whys.
Ooh.
Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Then pay close attention to your own answers. And then question, does it truly make good sense? Then look at every possible outcome. If you say yes, or and, and if you say, brother Tremere, I don't want to do all of this, then I say fine, stay where you are. Some people boldly say, I ain't gonna never change. This is who I am. I ain't changing for nobody. Well, everything in life changes. Change is a natural part of life and is a sign of intelligence as well as growth. So, changing based on the circumstances around you is as natural as a tree bending to the wind, so
Ooh.
that its branches won't be broken by it. This does not mean that you are not you. Hold on, let me show. This does not mean that you are not to be true to yourself, but even though the tree branches bend, the roots remain the same.
Come on.
So you also must consider your own need to change for things in your life to be what you want them to be. My point being with that one, or I'm
Man.
saying just that is, if we really want the things that we truly seek, if we want our people to be in a better position, we gotta change our way, change the ways that we are, the way we think, and how we interact with each other. You know what I'm saying? How we need to love each other, bro.
That's
That's
it.
all
We
I can say
started with that.
about it. We just need to love each other. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we don't know how. We have it within us. That's one of the things about us. We naturally love. We don't know any other way. We're not a hateful people. We're not a vengeful people. We are made from the creator of all of
That's
this.
right. And
He is
he's
a
the essence of
creator of
love.
love. So how can we necessarily be full of so much hatred? You know what I'm saying? Outside of, yes, we are kind of vengeful, but
It's a
you know what I'm
false
saying? We
identity.
need to learn how to thank you, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. That's not who we naturally are. You know, so that whole thing of like who we are as an individual, who we are as a people, yes, that's already rooted in the ground. We know who we naturally are, but we do have to change this whole attitude that we have
Yes.
towards each other
Starts
and
with
how
us.
we go about this. You know what I'm saying? My biggest one is most important about the men. We are the leaders of this nation. You know what I'm saying? We are the ones who have to make sure we're guiding in the true sense of how we're supposed to be. Because if the men interact with each other out of love, you know who else gonna do it? The women and the
Come
children.
on. Come on.
You know what I'm saying? And then it naturally keeps getting passed on generation after generation, and we can kill all this mess that we in.
That's it.
It's not necessary, it's destructive. This isn't who we naturally are. So let's go ahead and make the changes that we need to make. Let it be. Let it happen. Let it come. It's not something that we can't do. Just do it. Just do it, people. Just do it. I'm just
That's it,
saying.
man. We've got to get back
Man,
to the point where we show love, like you mentioned, brother, man. And
that's
before
it.
we get out of here, what pages did you get that passage from, brother? And give us a shout out again on the book.
Um, that was actually right off page 4.
Page 4.
Page 4.
Man,
Right off.
look, if you haven't got your copy right
Push
now,
on through struggle. You know what I'm saying?
push
Brother
on through
Tamika's
struggle.
Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? Great book. You know, I'm telling you, straight gems. You
And
know,
it goes back to the essence of this, like you mentioned, love. We got to get back to that point where we, as brothers, as sisters, as people of the community, we got to get back to that point of love, man. So, man, that was
that's
perfect
it.
words, brother. Perfect words, man, to finish us off on this one, man. Thank you so much for that, man. That's the brother Jeff, man. Again, he can be found. I'm going to throw his email address down at the bottom as well, so you can see it there. JNED LLC 2022 at Gmail. He can be found there. Also, if you are on Instagram or Facebook, you can also find him at the Phoenix LOC on Instagram and on Facebook as well. This is the brother, man. Look, we got to do it again. We got to do it again, brother. You
Yes,
already
sir.
know.
Hey, like I said, we can make this a series as far as I don't care. You know, like we can do this every week, however you want to do it, brother.
Indeed,
Whenever
indeed,
you're ready, I'm down.
indeed, indeed.
I
Well,
don't know
man,
how everybody feel like seeing my face all the time, but you know, hey, I'm here.
it's the wisdom, brother. Look, let's just say the light shines on you.
I appreciate that, fam. I appreciate it. You too as well, bro. You doing
Yes,
the
sir.
Lord's work.
Yes, sir. Peace and blessings, brother. Greatly appreciate it,
You
man.
too, family. Peace and blessings to you, yo.
Man, so y'all again, thank you for tuning in to another live episode here, man. We're located at Grassroots right now. This episode came to you by way of Grassroots. The brother gave a good plug for brother Tramikas Muhammad as well. He read an excerpt from the book. If you haven't already done it, push on through the struggle. You go get that book, man. Go get it. You can get it right here at Grassroots. Again, I'm your host, Nakia, tuning in, man. Thank you for this. Peace, peace, peace. Sold out right now. We got